The world grows and grows and grows. It's harder and harder to feed everybody and clothe everybody and house everybody. And it's getting a little tougher these days to maintain good health and get good food supply. But I think if it's God's will most of the time for us to prosper and be in health. If you do all these things and you get good health, use it for God. I see some people, I saw a guy sitting on a tailgate of his truck one day. I was out knocking on doors, witnessing, inviting people to church. And he was sitting there on the tailgate of his truck, a massive, muscular guy. And you could tell something was bothering him. And I said, "Sir, what's the problem?" He said, "Well, my wife is leaving me." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, she says I don't spend enough time with her." I said, "Well, sir, let me ask you a question. How much time do you spend working out at the gym?" He said, "Oh, 3 hours a day." And it showed. I mean, he was muscular. But he lost his wife. That's not worth it. My preacher preached a whole year of sermons one time. Every sermon had the same title, different message, but tremendous messages. The title of his sermon was, "They got what they wanted, but they lost what they had." Adam wanted that fruit off the tree. He got it, but he lost what he had. Many people got what they wanted and lost what they had. He went all through the Bible showing how people got what they wanted, but lost what they had. And some people work hours and hours and days and years to get good health, and they get it, but they lose their fellowship with God. They spend all their emphasis on the body. Oh, don't do that. Take care of your body. But the purpose of keeping the body going good is so you can do more for God with your life. We're going to put some interviews on here now with some nutrition experts and some chiropractors and things who are really can give you some good advice on how you can be healthy. And I recommend you listen carefully to what they have to say. But keep it all in perspective. This is only the body. You got to keep your spirit in tune with God, and your social life with your friends and neighbors. Whether you're healthy or not, you can still keep that in mind. And keep growing mentally like Jesus did in Luke 2:52. Thank you so much for joining us. Jenny, what are some things you can do to achieve good health? If a person wants to be healthy, what can they do? Give us some pointers on that, please.
Okay, you know, I think it's wonderful that we can do something to achieve good health, and it is a choice. We can do something to change the way we feel, and the steps are really simple and logical. And basically there are three. First is to have a good positive attitude and to learn to control and minimize stress, because stress is a major cause of disease and a major factor in illness. And the Bible says it pretty simply, do not be anxious about anything. That is, it's a challenge, but we can do that. Secondly, of course, exercise is critical, adequate exercise and adequate rest along with it, especially the rest for children. Sometimes we expect our children to be healthy and they don't get enough sleep. And then the third is to make sure you do get proper nutrition. In the area of nutrition, the Bible speaks often and specifically about diet. God gave His people in Leviticus some pretty specific, precise, in fact, incredibly precise laws and rules regulating diet and cleanliness. And in Daniel, the 4 Hebrew children refused the king's rich food and had a diet of just vegetables and water, if I remember correctly, and really thrived. And I think God expects us to maintain our health by feeding our bodies appropriately. And to me, it's strange that we spend more time thinking about what we put on our bodies most of the time than what we put in our bodies, and we expect our bodies to function at full performance, sometimes with no more than a coffee and donut or a diet soda for breakfast, and many people skip meals totally and expect to think correctly and to be able to function properly. You wouldn't expect your car to run without gas, and you wouldn't, or proper maintenance with it. And I believe God could have made our bodies that would function forever without any fuel, but He didn't do that. And He set up some specific laws that have cause and effect, the sum of which we call the science of nutrition. And if we ignore those laws, we reap the consequences, usually in illness and poor health, disease, even premature death.
Are there some basic rules we can follow in order to be healthy or understand what our body needs as far as nutrition goes and things like that?
Yes, there are, and you don't have to be an expert to do it either. Again, they're simple, and the first one is to eat foods as natural, or choose foods as close to natural as possible. And we do have a choice when we go grocery shopping. We can either choose God-made foods or man-made foods. And it's pretty easy to tell the difference. The God-made foods were once alive. They either grew in the soil, or they swam in the ocean, or they walked on hoof or flew by wing. And they're usually available in the produce sections or in the meat sections, the dairy section. The man-made food are in boxes and bags throughout the center of the grocery store aisle. And an example would be a baked potato versus a boxed potato. So, you know, people will think, okay, when I choose my food, is it as natural or as close to natural as it could possibly be? And a second rule of thumb in that area would also be to eat foods as live as possible. Now, you might say, what are live foods? Well, cooked foods are dead foods. And anytime you heat a food to 130 degrees or more, you begin to destroy the enzymes and the vitamins. Vitamins are living, and they are destroyed by heat and oxygen and even cold. And so it's important to, every nutritionist agrees that you should eat from 1/3 to 2/3, or from 1/2 to 2/3 of your diet in its raw, original form. And then also you should eat foods as whole as possible. A good example of that would be an orange rather than orange juice or reconstituted orange juice. So think natural, live, and whole. Good health is not just a matter of what we get, but it's also a matter of what we don't get. So it's important in choosing our foods to avoid the poisons, not only in food, but in the water and the air too. And in foods, it's important to read labels, and there are probably more than 30,000, maybe 300,000 chemicals in foods, and most of them have not been tested for toxicity. In fact, recent research shows that things we find commonly in food, like monosodium glutamate, nitrates, nitrites, even aspartame, are responsible for causing some pretty serious health effects right now. And in the area of water, we're supposed to drink 1/2 our body weight in ounces of water. In other words, if you weigh 100 pounds, drink 50 ounces of water per day. But it needs to be pure water, because there's so many chemicals in water today that to have good health, you have to have the water, but it needs to be good water. And as far as air, there's not a lot you can do to control the air you breathe, but inside your homes you can, by using household products that aren't full of chemicals and toxins, and there are ways that you can cut down on that too. And then the third rule in that area is to make sure that we do get the proper, get nutrition in proper amount.
Can taking supplements, vitamin supplements, reduce the incidence of illness in the human body?
It sure can. In fact, the USDA published a study that said if every single person in the United States would just make sure they get the recommended daily allowance, now called the daily values of essential nutrients, we could change our health picture and reduce heart disease by 25%, 50% fewer infant and maternal deaths, 50% reduction in arthritis, 50% avoided or improved cases of diabetes, a 75% reduction in osteoporosis, an 80% reduction in obesity, just to name a few. And again, this is from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And it's an old report. I would guess if they did that study again, that they would have a significant reduction in cancer and some of the other diseases that are plaguing our nation today.
What do we need to do to get 100% of the recommended daily value or the recommended daily allowance? What do we need to do?
According to the food pyramid, the current food pyramid, you'd have to eat 6 to 11 pieces, servings of bread, cereal, rice, pasta, and of course whole grain, because white flour really doesn't have very much nutrition in it. 3 to 5 servings of vegetables, 2 to 4 servings of fruit, 2 to 3 servings of milk, dairy, yogurt, cheese, things like that, and 2 to 3 servings of meat, poultry, fish, dry beans, eggs, or nutrition. Eggs or nuts. I don't know very many people who do that. Do you?
No, you'd have to eat all day long.
That's right.
Are there certain particular supplements we should be taking to make sure we're getting what our body needs?
First of all would be a multivitamin. It's like buying insurance on your body, that no matter what you eat today, you're going to get all the major nutrients and the micronutrients that your body has to have. It's balancing body chemistry, basically. and I'm not doing these in any order because I'm not sure there is an order, but fiber is important too. We need 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. Most Americans get 7 to 10. And do you know colon cancer, the #1 cancer killer, is 100% preventable if Americans would just get 25 to 30 grams of fiber in their diet a day. And that's not easy to do without supplementation. In fact, I think it's impossible. Calcium is another one that even the AMA says is critical today because we're facing an epidemic of osteoporosis, which is nothing more than a lifelong calcium deficiency. And calcium is really, really hard to pull from our foods. We really don't